misty woods and hills they wend. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Tales of Adventure. Tonight I'm very excited to welcome Aaron of Infernal Schoolhouse. I was very honored to get to be on their podcast recently, and now he gets to hang out with us tonight as we tell a story in the Feywilds. So, Aaron, welcome, and I hope you're having an awesome holiday weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And likewise.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about your character. I hear he's a very, very cool warlock.
Yes, absolutely. So I will be playing Sebastian the Bicorned. Sebastian is a tiefling warlock, going with the stereotypical type of race for a warlock. But either way, that is a great picture of Sebastian. Sebastian is a former accountant for his town, and he got more and more bored with being in his town of Wickerton, constantly going further and further into the wilds on his walks outside of work, until he finally ended up in the Feywild accident. He met a unicorn, uh, and understood what it meant to go to the land of unicorn bliss, fell in love with it, and pledged his entire mortal being towards serving a unicorn named Stardust in order to find a way to move forward and join the Feywild permanently. So he is a celestial warlock that is doing what he can in order to meet the needs of his patron, and also earn the following of his common man.
I particularly love how both his eyes and his magic glow in the same way that his patron's horn does. I think that's very cool.
I thought it was a good link for the two of them. He also, it's not in there, but he also does have a talisman, as he does follow the pact of the talisman, that also glows the same color whenever he's casting magic.
That is very cool. Well, tonight, his patron is going to try to send him off on the mission back into the Feywilds. And if he succeeds, he may very well alter the politics there, either in a positive or a negative way, depending on your personal opinion. So,
Excellent.
we'll see how that goes. Are you ready to
Great.
get started?
I certainly am.
All right, let's do it. So, the Feywilds, a place of unrestrained and awe-inspiring beauty. The Plane of Faerie is suffused with potent magic and unrestrained emotions. Perpetually bathed in twilight, visitors to the Feywild find their senses and emotions heightened. Particularly powerful emotions have been known to alter the landscape itself. Some suggest intricate court intrigues among the Archfey are the cause for this plane's continuously shifting landmarks. Nevertheless, certain establishments remain eternal. And while performing your usual duties near the large regional town of Wickerton, you received an urgent missive from your patron, Stardust. News has reached me that an arcane artifact, long thought lost, has resurfaced. This magic item seems to be a light source, but it is the knowledge of its creation that is truly the danger. Rumors say it is in the hands of the Prince of Frost, who hopes to use it to negotiate an alliance. With who is unclear. But as solstice approaches, we are presented with an opportunity. Now, Sardis can share some useful information with you. They happen to know that the item was forged by a long
Excellent.
ago mage who experimented on luminescent creatures, suspending them at the moment of death to create this artifact. They warn that destroying the item must only be done by a powerful being. Sebastian, if you attempt it yourself, you could sustain significant harm. However, if you bring it back to Stardust, he can help you destroy it. If it's too dangerous to attempt this, do not do so, because truly it is a dangerous item, and the knowledge that could give to an enemy, such as the Unseelie Court, is far more dangerous than the item itself, and so he recommends giving it to another Archfey, such as Titania herself. He will also remind you that every solstice, it is the place of the courts to host each other as a way to bring about a kind of peace for one 24-hour period, if such a thing really exists in the Feywilds. And this year, it's the Seelie Court's turn to host. And Zybilna has offered a neutral location in her world, Prismere. And they can guide you to a Fey crossroad to help you get nearby. However, it'll be up to you to find the exact location where Zybilna plans to host this year's festivities.
Perfect. All right. So this is all in a missive from Stardust, is that correct?
That is correct.
Excellent. And am I currently on the outskirts of Wickerton?
Yes. Close by.
Perfect. All right. So I guess the first thing I would ask is, do I have any sort of Fey allies, preferably within the Seelie Court, that are nearby outside of Wickerton?
Not at the moment, no. This time of year is very sacred to the Fey courts, and they all would have been moving towards that destination. If anyone had been near Wickerton, they would already be in the Planes of Faerie. However, that doesn't mean you're without allies. You just need to locate them first.
Okay, perfect. So I think what I'd like to do is if I could just start walking through and trying to find my way back to the Feywild as I've made it there before, to see if I can find if that path would lead at least back into it, and then preferably to try and find a path forward from there.
Absolutely. And it is fairly easy for you to locate that. You are able to find the exact crossing that your patron indicated without much trouble. It's what happens after the crossing that will be a bit more challenging. After all, the Feywild is constantly shifting.
Yes. So what is it that I see when I get to the crossing?
Well, as you're walking, you ponder the background that you know. You do remember that the loyalty of the Fae are held in a delicate balance, and so you're going to have to puzzle that out. And they're torn between two godlike Archfey, Titania, whom you at least have heard of if you haven't met yet, and the Queen of Air and Darkness, who rules over both the Seelie and the Unseelie courts, respectively. Their bitter rivalry is set aside for only one day each year to celebrate the high holiday. At each winter solstice, the courts take turns hosting their rival at a neutral location where Fey nobility enjoy fine entertainment, navigate political alliances, and participate in occasional balances. Perhaps this is where the Prince of Frost will try to use this arcane artifact. And this year, the stakes are going to be much higher. With the help of the patron, you do find that crossroad. It seems very familiar to you. Perhaps you've been here before, when finding a unicorn in the past. And deep inside the forest outside Wickerton, this crossroad is marked by a simple arrangement of smooth stones. Yet, the telltale shimmer of a portal is visible to those who look carefully. Stepping into the circle of stones, the air ripples around you. Your vision blurs and the world tilts. Opening your eyes, you are greeted by a world bathed in twilight. Sweet-smelling flowers and glowing fungi are temptations and distractions as you seek the path forward. What do you do
Excellent.
next?
So I think the first question I would have is, do I at least understand maybe the iconography or the history of both the Seelie and the Unseelie courts?
I would say most likely, given who your patron is. If
Hmm.
you weren't able to research that, I'm sure that Stardust would have taught you at least a little bit about the court dynamics.
Okay, perfect. I think that before I move forward, if it's possible, as we are celebrating this alliance, or at least this more ceasefire between the two sides, is maybe to dress myself in something that sort of embraces both of them, whether that's some sort of face paint that would show that, iconography of the Seelie court and also iconography of the Unseelie court on two different sides. So that way I show myself as somebody who's willing to walk between both.
Okay. Well, you would know that common neutral deities, if there are such a thing here, would include individuals such as um, Orin,
Hmm,
also known as the Green Man. He is a
excellent.
deity on your plane of existence, but here he is a neutral party betwixt and between the two, and often worshipped by rangers. Dressing in green would honor him. However, a trickster
Mm,
deity would be Hirsum. He tends to be worshipped by satyrs, although they say he was born from music itself, and playing more towards the bardic side of things would certainly honor him. However, if you were to play it towards the Prince of Frost, although he is an evil aligned deity, he hasn't chosen a court and deigns to choose any side amongst the Fae, any race at all, being that he tends to be more like an ice giant than any other race at all. If you were to find a way to honor him, that might give you a political advantage.
hmm. Okay. So, do I know much of him besides what my patrons already told me, or is this more just knowledge that I would have in passing?
Even on Toril, he tends to have a reputation.
Hmm.
Anyone who has wandered the Underdark would know of the Prince of Frost, because he tends to wander the Feydark and use that as a crossroads to mess with any denizens who don't pay attention to the paths of the Underdark too well.
Hmm. Very good. So, I think what I'd like to do moving forward is, before I try and figure out where I am, is maybe to cast some sort of light around myself with the cantrip of light, and maybe use more of a color from the Underdark, like more of a purplish hue, to show that maybe I've been there recently. And then I'd like to take a look around to see if there is any sort of pathway around me that might make sense, or if it's just the typical Feywild craziness.
Absolutely. And if you would like to gather bioluminescent fungi, there are plenty here that you could use that might represent the Underdark. You could even gather some to present as a gift if you'd like, although that would require a nature check. And
Okay.
if you're trying to figure out the path, that would be a survival check. Because things are quite chaotic here in the Feywild, with so many Archfey gathering in one place.
Awesome. So I think I'd like to start by grabbing different fungi within the area, but knowing it's the Feywild and a fungi could be anything, I will go ahead and do that nature check and see what it might be. So let's just see. I'm pretty sure I'm not super high on that, so that I could go any direction here. So let's just see.
Okay. I seem to be having some internet issues, but um, in a moment, once I know that I've got you back and I can hear you clearly, I'll make sure that I know exactly what that roll was. That way, I can tell you what you discovered. Pausing for technical difficulties. That's okay. Some nights are more challenging than others. All right, so we will get our friend back in just a moment, but in the meantime, we are gathering some Fey tubers here and some other fun things, and we'll discover exactly what we found in a moment, disguising ourselves and perhaps even being able to prompt our very cool Prince of Frost. Yay, that worked. Um, yes, if it, for whatever reason, it does strange things, like I have a weird disconnect moment, go ahead and just reconnect on that link on your end, because I can just quick add you very quickly, whether it's
You got it.
me with slow internet or you with slow internet or just Twitch being rude to us for an evening. I can just click add, because sometimes odd things happen. Like a couple weeks ago, we just had, because we're all the way across the country from each other, it was being rather naughty. So we had to do some cleverness. So if anything happens, just click clicking, and I know to open it back up and add you back in really quick. But yes, it happens.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, the Feywild's a mysterious place,
Yes.
even over the connections.
Already the Archfey were messing with us. It happens. Yes. But on that note, do tell, how was that survival and nature check going for you?
Oh, yes. So survival was a 12. Let me look at my nature. My nature check was a 12. Let me check
Okay.
my survival roll real fast here.
No worries.
Okay, survival was a 15.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, with your nature skills, you are able to discover a few Fey Dark tubers, a type of plant that normally doesn't grow in this particular area of the Feydark, a wild, excuse me, got my brain in another area here. But perhaps because of so many different unseelie creatures here in Prismere, a new kind of plant has decided to pop itself up. These types of tubers look a little bit like a potato, but they're longer, more like a root structure, and they're kind of similar to what you might find in the Underdark. Yes, they're bioluminescent, and they do have some magical properties. However, I wouldn't recommend consuming them yourself, but they might make a nice gift. You also discover some other plant life that might make a nice present for someone who is used to the Underdark, or at least the Feydark. Certainly quite lovely in color and might make it an interesting crown or bouquet. And while looking for the path, it does take you a few minutes, but eventually you find something that looks like a path next to the stream, leading off deeper into the forest.
Okay, perfect. So I think I'd like to start by carefully removing some of the tubers just with my dagger so as not to upset anything that could possibly be a mandrake and hurt anything that shouldn't be hurt. Um, and then I think I'd like to make just like a nice little crown out of the other vegetation as a sort of a offering towards saying, hey, maybe you should be the chosen one with the different vegetation I find there.
Nice.
But after I've had that together, I would like to move forward on the path.
Okay, absolutely. Um, Following the path, you head further off into the Feywild. and luminescent insects buzz around you as you follow the burbling creek towards a clearing meant to host this year's high holiday. Time moves strangely in the Plane of Faerie, and you cannot be sure how long you've been following the forest stream. As you walk along, you could swear you could hear a fiddler playing a merry tune away in the distance.
Do I recognize the tune?
It sounds almost like something you would hear in a tavern back home, but there's something upside down and backwards about it, like it's an echo of something from Faerun.
Oh, okay. So, from the direction, at least, that it sounds like it's coming from, is it coming from along the path or off of the path?
It seems like it's coming directly ahead of you.
Okay. Well, then I think I'd like to continue moving forward and hoping that whatever this is not some sort of weird ploy by the Fae in order to bewitch me in some way.
Good plan. And as you head further up the path, you discover what seems to be a wild man with curly hair and horns up in a tree playing a fiddle.
Excellent. I'd like to acknowledge him. Yeah, and then maybe just do like a nice little slow, quiet clap from below the tree at him.
He laughs at you, and from his perch in the tree, he flips to hang upside down from his legs. His legs still hooked up on that branch, he continues to fiddle away, laughing a bit maniacally, a bit like a hatter, as it were, still rather fiddling away.
So I will just politely interrupt him and say, I'd ask for your name, but I certainly don't want to keep it. But perhaps you can tell me where I am and where I should be going right now.
The fiddler will flip to land on the ground. At this point, you realize he has longer, pointed ears under that mane of curly, tangled hair, and his legs are that of a goat. You realize the violin or fiddle is still playing, but his hands are empty as he bows rather dramatically to you, offers his hand, and says, "I am Strom," and you are in the Feywild, if you hadn't noticed just yet, and you're going wherever you're meant to be going, I suppose. Aren't we all, after all?
So I would like to place my hand out and embrace his and say, why, thank you. I am Sebastian, and I think I'm meant to be going to visit the celebration of the courts, if you happen to know where that is.
Oh, of course. It's hither or yon, I'm not quite sure, but it's over there. And of course, isn't it quite fun and silly to be going that way? If you don't mind me saying, you don't seem to be Fey.
Well, I'm certainly not Fae, but I celebrate the Fae, and in fact, I even serve the violin or the best a mortal can.
Ah, I see. One of those, are you? Well, in that case, we will do the best that we can and do everything that is necessary to make sure that everything that's needed is, well, actually, never mind. I've decided I don't actually care.
I mean, that's fair. I don't know that I care about your music either, but I would certainly be made to care again if you would be maybe able to give me any sort of way forward on my path.
Oh, well,
Certainly, it's boring for a musician such as yourself.
if you haven't noticed, I think you're actually standing on the path right there. That one. That's the path.
Oh, yes, very good. Excellent. Well, this has been a fortuitous encounter. Certainly, I hope that you find somebody else who enjoys your music more than I did, and then somebody who's slightly more exciting. I guess I'll just simply move forward, and perhaps if you come up with an idea, maybe you could help me out. Or if you'd like anything, perhaps I could give you something in order to give me an idea of where I should be going.
And as you turn to go, and he turns to ignore you, he pauses at the idea of a gift and will say, "Give me something, did you say? What sort of
Indeed.
something did you have in mind?"
Well, it's hard to find something that would impress a simple, you know, offering towards a majestic fae like yourself. But let me think about this. I could, let's see, would you like gold? Do you like gold? I could give you a piece of iron if you would like that.
He laughs a bit and goes, "Ah, a fiddle of gold against your soul to say that we're better than you. But you know what I'd really like?
Hmm.
More than anything, you know what I'd really like? Is to just prove, just this once, that more than anything, those damn Fomorians don't really belong in the Feywild. Do you think you could do that for me?"
Sure. How would you like me to prove that?
Well, you know that the Unseelie have to be here. It is the high holiday after all. But a little prank never hurt anybody, did it?
Certainly not, and not in the Feywild.
And you seem like the sort of warlock that has a Seelie court patron, don't you?
I certainly do.
Well, wouldn't the Seelie court kind of like it if you pulled a wee bit of a prank on the Unseelie court? And maybe just sort of got them to, I don't know, acknowledge that they don't really belong here?
I had talked about having a patron within the Sealy court.
Well, if you're not really interested in tricks, then we might not have anything else to talk about.
Oh, I certainly am. I just may or may not have heard the trick you were referring to.
Ah, well, the trick in particular must be up to you. You prove to me that you can be tricksy, and I might just come around and help you. You never know.
All right, so I guess I don't know that I want to roll insight, but does it seem like he's wanting me to go find a Fomorian right now to go trick, or is he wanting me to trick him?
I'll leave that one up to you. You can definitely tell that he doesn't like Fomorians, but whether or not the better trick would be to trick him instead to prove that you're a good trickster is up to you.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see on this one. So I think I have an idea here. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to maybe use my thaumaturgy and make it seem as though he's surrounded by Fomorians right now, that they're yelling at him in their language, and the very ground around him is shuddering. He doesn't necessarily see them because they could be hiding, but there is certainly a lot of activity that could be Fomorian currently around him that sounds angry.
Okay. At the moment, he believes that there truly is a group of Fomorians moving through, and perhaps they're heading out to that clearing, but he is quite agitated now because he really doesn't like Fomorians and believes them to be an inferior species that has no place in the Feywild. And you can tell that he's getting quite frustrated and would rather they not be here.
So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to hold up my little talisman of the unicorn and shout out, Fomori begone, and then cause with my thaumaturgy a bright flashing light to occur over the horizon, and then cease all of the sounds of Fomori that potentially would be around him, and let it become quiet again with the sounds of the Feywild.
And with that display of magic, he realizes what just happened and lets out a big, loud, cheery laugh and says that was quite a good trick, and I enjoyed it. It takes someone with true bravery and skill to pull off a trick like that and have me believe it right here in my own backyard. And with a snap of his fingers, you see his true form. And yes, he was always a satyr, but he was also the great Archfey Hirsim. And that violin was his own true instrument. And so, having pulled a great trick upon him, he offers you some advice. He'll tell you that he has heard whispers from the trees that the Prince of Frost is hoping to make a deal with the Queen of the Unseelie Fae. He wants to make an alliance. Although he will not truly choose sides, he's ready for a power play. And he no longer wants to be neutral.
So, I apologize, my lord, and thank you for enjoying my trick. Are you worried that this alliance would cause a balance to shift for the Unseelie to take more power away from the Seelie?
He nods. As a neutral party, balance in all things is important. You may not know that my father is Orin, the Green Man, and I understand that nature must have balance. When there is not balance, there is no fun, and tricks cannot rule. They say that I am a chaotic trickster and do not care if my pranks harm anyone. That may be true, but that does not mean I necessarily want the political machinations of the Archfey to destroy the Feywild. If the Unseelie take over, it may do so for a time, for a season, even for a century, but that does not mean that darkness should reign. If it does, truly, all of the realms and the planes of the crystal spheres will crumble. And it's not just that they're making an alliance. I feel that you know that there's a magical artifact at play. The knowledge it contains, that's the real danger. Get it away from the Prince of Frost. Regardless of any alliance they actually make tonight, that knowledge needs to be destroyed.
Is there anything in your bag of tricks you would recommend in order for me to either embarrass him or get that artifact away from him?
He looks at you appraisingly, and he'll say, being non-Fey, you can choose two paths. Lean into that as a strength, or choose a disguise. Which do you choose, traveler?
I will lean into being a non-Fey and see where that takes me within the court.
He nods. In which case, I'm afraid the pranks tonight are up to me. However, if you can get close enough to the Prince of Frost, you may just find that other sort of tricks and pranks are useful to you. You see, I'm not just the god and deity of bards, or tricksters for that matter.
Excellent.
I happen to be a patron of rogues and thieves. Pickpocketing may just be a useful skill for you tonight. And he pats you on the back. You may find that that's useful later.
So I will bow quite graciously and say thank you for the music, your time, and your tutelage. And then I will head on down the path.
Okay. So, having survived the Prince of Fools, you find it was a mere short walk to the clearing. A beautiful white pavilion awaits the Fey nobility. In the glowing twilight, this delicate structure seems to be cut from silk itself. As you watch, various Fey, from powerful Archfey to high-ranking darklings, begin to enter the clearing and intermingle. Tiny, fluttering fairy and pixies dart about, serving delicacies to these important guests. What do you do next?
So I think what I'd like to do is give some indication of who my patron is by just permanently right now changing my eye color to that of my patrons. Maybe even putting a small spectral horn over my head to show that I am in league with him. And that way I have a reason to represent here at the meeting of the two courts.
Nice.
And as I do so, I'd like to move forward and see about perhaps getting a couple of these delicacies off of the trays and trying to mingle as much as I can.
Absolutely. And for the most part,
Do I see anybody that I think would be...
Go ahead, no.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to let you know that for the most part...
No, just asking if there's somebody that I would...
It's okay. I think there's an audio delay tonight.
Sorry, I have a delay.
Yes. Probably me too.
Yes.
But the food is safe, just in case. No shenanigans tonight. At least not those kind.
Perfect. Okay, tell me more.
Okay. As you're wandering about, you may discover that certain members of the court here tonight are giving you respectful nods, noticing your choice of attire. But there are other members of the court that are giving you more of a wary side eye, perhaps even a few judgmental looks.
So I'd like to walk over to some of those people giving me the side eye and simply extend out a hand of peace and say, thank you for having me.
Given that it is the solstice, they must greet you peacefully. However, you may notice that those individuals who are greeting you with an air of judgment are those you would typically find in the Feydark, races like the Fomorians, and others that typically don't roam the Feywild, but prefer a darker residence, perhaps may even roam the Underdark on occasion.
Do I notice anybody that I think would be classified as an Archfey from the Underdark, or should I try and investigate with these fine denizens and who that might be?
Yes. Occasionally, you do see pockets of individuals that seem to be given a wider berth. They may be speaking with each other, but a lot of the court is walking around them respectfully or almost fearfully, as if they don't want to get involved in those conversations. It's a good guess that these are likely either high-ranking nobility or Archfey themselves.
Excellent. So I think what I'd like to do is walk towards them, but as I do so, I'd like to maybe unravel one of the tubers in my hand and hold it outstretched as though it's a gift, and say that I come to parlay and speak with you on this wonderful occasion.
Okay. Um, there's one Archfey in particular on what we might call the unseelie side of this particular creek
Mm,
who's caught your eye. And he is a dark blue, particularly tall individual that might be described as an ice giant. However, he is medium in size and not giant like at all. However, if he were a large sized individual, you would say he was an ice giant. And
mm.
he sees those tubers and he's very interested in parlaying with you. But he's also too haughty to approach you himself. Instead, he'll simply watch you to see what you do next.
Excellent. So, being a noble myself, I'm going to go to what looks like probably some member of his court that would speak on his behalf to relay messages to him, and then hold out my hands and give them the tuber and say that this is a gift for the Archfey, if I may have just a moment of an audience with him.
The underling will delicately take the tuber, nod to you, and then say in Sylvain, "And who may tell the princeling this gift is from?"
Very nice. It is from Sebastian the Bicorned. I am here on behalf of Stardust and the Sealy Court.
He will nod his thanks, go over to the Prince of Frost, and repeat those words to him while bowing and offering your present. The Prince of Frost will examine the tubers, nod, but without showing whether he approves or disapproves, glance over with you, and gesture that you may approach.
Excellent. So I will walk over slowly with my hands out of my pockets to show I mean no harm. And as I get to him, I will give him a nice deep bow and extend my hand.
The Prince of Frost doesn't immediately take your hand, but does say, "Sebastian the Bicorned, what brings you here on behalf of Stardust the Unicorn?"
I hear that there are many wonders to be found here and to enjoy the conversations, the mirth, and understand the alliances that might be made over time, as they always are every year as things happen. I'm also told that there might be significant magical artifacts around here that would be an amazing wonder to even behold or understand.
He nods to you, and yet I hear that you wish to parley. If you wish merely to observe, you could have approached any one of these denizens or simply sat at one of the tables and watched, documented, as warlocks and mages are wont to do. But you wish to parley. What is it that you want? Speak clearly.
I did. Well, I worry. I hear whispers among the trees of the Feywild that you do mean some sort of ill will against this meeting and hope to cause something even worse to come from it, rather than understanding that we all have a balance to achieve. So that is my parlay on understanding about whether or not you hold ill will here, or if you do, if there's some way in which we can prevent that.
He looks you over appraisingly and says, "Truly, you are more than what you seem, if you can understand the whispers of the trees. I'm curious. what other whispers do you think you can perceive here at the court tonight?
Well, I can perceive that many of us would like to simply enjoy the celebrations, move on, and then enjoy the next circle around the many suns. But I hear other ones that wish to upset the balance, that wish to maybe use a dark artifact in order to cause some sort of chaos or grabbing of power in order to make themselves slightly more powerful than they already are.
And tell me, Sebastian the Bicorned, which would you choose to be tonight if you had the choice?
If I had the choice, I don't know that I had the right answer for that one as a mere mortal. I don't have the ability to speak on behalf of the Fae outside of my patron who trusts me implicitly. But I would say that if I had to choose, I would rather choose that our world not come to an end and that we can find a way forward together.
He thinks about this, pondering. You fascinate me, Sebastian the Bicorned. Perhaps I will have you join me tonight, so that I can think about this while we walk through this pavilion together. Tell me, where did you find such interesting tubers?
I found them growing out here in the Feywild, not normally where they're supposed to grow, so it's very possible that things have been changing in the Feywild. But I'm also quite familiar with a lot of wonderful magical things, having spent much time here.
They are truly quite interesting. I'll be fascinated to see if I can cultivate them further. And for a time, you are able to chat with him about a variety of things. He seems fascinated by you, but there's also a distance to him, almost as if he's fascinated like a scientist studying a different species.
So I will ask him. You seem like an inquisitive sort, and you certainly seem like you have an incredible grasp of magic. Is there anything that you would proffer as an understanding of knowing um, how we should move forward as a group of Fae, as a group of humans, anything, and what sort of magic you possess?
He thinks about this for a moment and says, I do wish, at times, there had been more pursuits into the study of epic magics. But there are those who would put a stop to such things. They may not be Fae, but sometimes that means we can't study everything that we wanted to. And that can be rather frustrating. Okay, I know I lost you there for a little bit.
It's all good. I'm back now.
Yes, yay. But let me know if you missed anything from what he said.
I missed right when he was responding to me. I got like the first sentence, and then it all went from there.
Okay. So, quick recap. He basically shared that he wished we could study epic magics, but then went on to complain that there are those, even those who are not Fae, who would prevent the study of such things. He's basically alluding to Savras and other such deities who used to focus their energies outside of Waterdeep to prevent the study of epic magic.
Mm. This fascinates me. I mean, have you made any sort of epic magic that you would be willing to share and talk about that would show your resplendent abilities as a creator?
Unfortunately, since the Prince of Frost doesn't quite consider you an equal to his level, he's not going to brag about that. But he will hint that he does enjoy studying such things, and that perhaps there'll be a day when his name will go up there as a great lore master, as much as others have been in the past.
Excellent. So, question about the Archfey. Is it, with what he's wearing, is it possible to see that he has anything that would stand out as something that would be an artifact or um, out of the ordinary on his body?
He is carried a satchel, and from what you understand, that isn't something nobility would normally have on them.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, does this satchel have any sort of specific writing on it, or is it more of just a commoner sort of satchel sort of thing that somebody might be carrying with them?
It's a high quality satchel, certainly something a nobleman or an archfey would own, but it's not something they would carry around themselves. They would have a minion do it.
Okay, to forward. I noticed that you're carrying a satchel that you would normally have. Certainly one of your more than capable staff carry. Can you tell me what might be in there that's so important?
He will turn towards you, suddenly a bit cold, and will simply say, "You have your tricks, and I have mine."
Mm, okay. Hmm. All right. I think I have an idea here. So, hmm. So I like a good trick. Um, how about we have maybe a trick contest?
Okay. Oh, are you asking him?
Maybe if you can set the rules, hopefully not too unfair. Yes.
Sorry. I got excited.
So if he might be willing to tell me what's an egg, if I happen to tell his team.
Okay. Um, he is not as into tricks as perhaps other archfey might be.
Fair.
However, roll me an insight very quickly.
Okay. All right. My insight is an 11.
Okay. Um, when you are proposing this, it provides a perfect distraction for something, which is for a particular trickster to perform a trick of his own. And he snuck into that satchel and stole a bottle of something. And as you're watching, you realize you're the only one that can see him do this. And with a snap of his fingers, he makes that bottle disappear. Now, you're not entirely sure where it went, but you're noticing that your pack has shifted rather uncomfortably. And you're starting to wonder if maybe that trickster is actually hanging around behind you at the moment.
Mm. So I think that what I will do is.
All right, everyone. We're back. Sorry about that. We were having tech snafus tonight. This one is microwave related. So remember, kids, your internet can only handle so much technology all at once.
That's right.
It happens. So we left off where I don't even remember after all of that.
I felt a
That
weight in my bag,
And you're waiting in a
and there was
bag,
really
yes.
yes,
And we were going to try to decide what was going to happen next. That was
yes,
basically
that's
it.
correct. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to excuse myself from the situation, as clearly he has no interest in joining my tricks, and just say that I've certainly taken up enough of his time, and that if the opportunity presents itself again this evening, I'd like to come speak with him again.
All right. Yes. Good plan there. He will kind of give you a bit of a side eye as you walk away, but being the sort of fellow that considers himself superior to most beings, he's not going to make too much of a comment on that part. And so you're able to walk away, at least in one piece for now.
Excellent.
So, yes.
I certainly don't want to make a scene, so I'm going to walk away slowly and, shake hands or say hello to people on the way out. So it doesn't seem like I'm in a bit of a rush. But then, if I come to a point where I can maybe just step away for a moment to somewhere a little more private, I'd like to see if there's anything going on with my bag.
Yeah. Um, and so you're able to find a quiet spot to yourself. There's only a few fairy here flitting about, serving different patrons, and you discover that there is a glowing glass jar in your backpack. And based on the description that you were given, it does seem to be the magical artifact that was described. And you realize that it seems to have almost a living nature to it, as small glowing lights flit around inside this glass jar. And you can't be certain, but they remind you in a way of the luminescent insects that you've encountered on your journey here to the clearing.
Hmm. Is there anything I can ascertain about this jar, or at least the inhabitants within, if there would be any sort of, I guess, repercussions if I were to open the jar and maybe free these creatures that are within?
Give me an arcana check.
Okay. All right. So for that one is a 19.
Okay, nice. You're definitely able to discern an aura of radiant power about the jar. And you're able to get the sense that there's a lot of tension and buildup within this glass jar itself. And not only that, but you're able to discern that the cork itself has a different sense of magical ability. It has a seal upon it, arcane in nature, and you get the sense that if that seal were broken, whatever's inside the jar would release a significant amount of energy.
Hmm. So I think that I will just go back to my note that I got earlier from Stardust and trust his judgment that I don't want to open this by myself. So what I will do is I will just quietly put this back into my bag, and just slowly let the evening wind down just a smidge, just another maybe 15 minutes, and then find a way to excuse myself back on the path outside of the Feywild.
Yes. As things wind down, you notice a young lad approach you. He's dressed all in green leaves and offers to safely escort you back.
Mm. Can I maybe? It's difficult, obviously, in the Feywild, but maybe I have a feeling of who I think this is, but I don't want to be tricked. So, is there a way to maybe do like an insight check to see if I think I'm being tricked right now by the person who's offering to escort me back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I have a 15 for that one.
Okay. They have a very strong glamour. However, you're noticing a significant amount of power coming off of this young lad. And given what you know about iconography, you get the sense that this is Orin, or the Green
Mm.
Man, and that what they're really offering isn't safe guidance back to the Fey Crossroad, but a bit of advice for how to handle the bottle in your hand.
So I will certainly, I maybe guess slightly pat him on the back and say, thank you for your offer. I'm certainly welcome to any sort of aid you'd be willing to provide me in this moment.
He nods, and the lad will simply say, as a neutral party, I don't take sides. I don't really judge. I'm not like my son over there. And you'd find that slightly odd comment to say. But I will offer to take you to someone who can give you some assistance, some better advice than me, someone quite a bit wiser. Would you like that?
I would like that.
He smiles and says, That's a good laddie, and he traipses off towards the trees, and you follow him deeper into the forest.
Mm, excellent. So, what do we see as we are going deeper into the forest?
At the direction of the Green Lord, you head away from the festivities that are now well underway or ending, depending on your perspective. Due to the thick foliage, the music and sounds of revelry dim as you head into the twilight. And waiting for you amongst the ancient oak trees is an ageless female. She appears as an elf with autumn-colored hair and golden eyes. A crown of fall leaves perches upon her head. The only feature that reveals her power is her softly golden glowing skin.
Mm. So, I would like to make a slight bow and then reach in my bag and pull out the small wreathed crown that I made earlier out of vegetation and offer it to her as a way of saying thank you for meeting with me.
The Summer Queen smiles, and her smile is as radiant as a summer's day. She gladly accepts the crown and places it onto a stone next to her. But then she sadly takes the glass bottle. She says, Many lives died in order to create this. That they were small should be no matter. Each one was precious, and I may have called them friend once. If only they could have been spared. It's such a pretty thing. It creates light, but it needn't have been uncreated. The mage knew not what he forged. She looks at you. You give me permission to destroy it?
I would wish nothing else.
She nods. Then truly you are wiser than many who have come before you. And with that, she presses her hands carefully over the jar. And at the moment that it bursts apart, you notice a glorious aurora borealis spreads across the sky. And although the star may have been destroyed, you realize that the light it casts has been cast up into the heavens, just as all of those small lights and the spirits they contained have been released to where they belong. And she smiles at you. Truly, you have done us a great favor today. For not only have you finally released these spirits to where they go to rest, but you have potentially saved us from disaster. If anyone else had attempted something like this, not only with these, the fairy flies, but with something else. A fairy, a pixie, something larger, then truly, capturing that power would have meant disaster for everyone.
I will nod and bow and say that it is by your grace that we all move forward into the future.
She smiles to you and says, "For this, then, I'll give you a boon. Anything you might ask of me, even if it be today or for the future, I will do my best to grant it of you. A boon for an Archfey is no small thing, so think carefully before you ask."
Well, I think, if anything, I would like something that would help me to honor my own patron, whether that allows me to move more steadily and successfully forward in my mission to serve him, as well as those of the Sealy Court.
She nods, and, stepping forward, she places a gentle kiss on your forehead. And although you don't feel any different, you realize that she has marked you in a way that everyone can realize. That way, whether they're Sealy or unsealy, they would know you have Lady Titania's blessing, and to mess with you is to mess with the Queen of the Sealy Court.
That's wonderful. So I think I would like to take my leave and thank her and find my way back out of the Feywild and hopefully write my patron a very happy letter.
You're able to do so, and very little messes with you. After all, it's still the high holiday. Time passes very strangely here, and the Aurora Borealis accompanies you until you make it safely back to where you belong, back in Faerun.
Excellent. Great.
Yes, indeed. And just in case you are curious, this is the magical item you are successfully able to destroy. Normally we go all about retrieving items, but we mixed it up tonight. This is our bottle of fairy flies. It's a clear glass bottle that emits a pale summer glow and is filled with tiny, innumerable shimmering lights. A cork stopper containing a powerful arcane rune seals the contents of this glowing glass jar. A powerful mage developed this magical light source by experimenting upon luminary insects found only in the Feywild and documenting their unique properties. By placing a swarm of the creature in suspended animation at the moment of their death, a unique magical item can be forged from their radiant power. A bottle of fairy flies sheds bright light in a 15-foot radius and dim light for an additional 30 feet. As an action, an attuned creature may command the bottle to expand or reduce that radius to a maximum of 60 feet or a minimum of 10 feet total. Yes.
It's a really cool artifact. I don't know that my character would want to use something with such dark energy inside of it, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty. If you had opened it, bad things would have happened.
Seems like it.
Yeah, that's a lot of radiant energy to just kind of burst out of there at once. So you would have taken a lot of damage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for the storytelling. That was awesome.
Of course. Thank you for sticking with it despite our odd tech issues tonight.
For sure. Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. For anyone who stuck with us in the chat, thank you for sticking with us. We had a lot of fun. And I hope you guys will go check out Infernal Schoolhouse. They have some really cool podcasts on there. and lots of other cool things in the shop as well. I just took that one out today. So yes,
Awesome.
yeah. A couple weeks we'll have another awesome guest. I'll talk about that one. Keep it a secret for now. But yes, until then, I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. Bye, you guys.
See you later. Awesome. Thank you.